My name is Håkan, and I'm responsible for business development and marketing. And currently the Pure Ballast organization is going through some important changes to meet the change in demand. So we're growing the organization in all parts. And for example, the project management team is growing to handle the increase in inquiries and to make sure that our customers can continue to get the support that they need. So we can make sure that they get on-time delivery of engineering and installation, and also the customer support. So the team is growing to handle technical inquiries and to make sure that we support the customers all along the way from planning stage through the engineering to the installation. Another news that we are working on is that Pure Ballast 3 is a mature product. So what we work on now is to broaden the product portfolio to adapt it to the requirements of the market. And we have a new 1500 reactor, which is a good proof of that, where we typically in bulkers and tankers you have a challenge with power consumption and installed power on board. So with the new 1500 reactor, we actually decreased the power consumption with 25%, and we also reduced the footprint. So this reduction in installed power actually positions us among the lowest of the available ballast water treatment systems on the market, not only among UV but also easy systems. And connected to the 1500 reactor, we have a deck house, which is developed for installations on deck. Typically it's because you don't have submerged pumps, so you don't have a pump room. It can also be that the pump room is too small, you don't have space, or it's a US flagged vessel, so it's zone zero in the pump room. And then you need to install it on deck. So we have developed a solution with a deck house, which meet the same quality requirements that we have for the system. And when you install it on deck, the system, the ballast pumps that you typically have from the beginning, they're not fit to pump the water up to deck and through a ballast water treatment system. So you don't have enough pressure basically. So we, together with From, have developed a booster pump unit that will make sure that the Pure Ballast system can handle its own pressure requirements. So the cargo and pumping system was designed as it is for a reason. So you should not tamper with that, because the cargo pumping system is how you make the money. So it's very important to make it keep performing at its peak. So that are some of the news that we're working on. We still see that many ship owners struggle to find correct information to make an educated decision. We see that the maturity among the ship owners has increased a lot in the last maybe 4 or 5 years. So they understand that the price is something you pay and value is what you get. And they are very much looking to try to find this information to make this decision based on what's best for the fleet and the requirements that they have. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges. Typically, I think that only the amount of available systems on the market make it a challenge. Only the mere information available is a challenge. And to narrow it down a little bit, to try to understand where should you focus, what should you look for. What I think is important is that you look at the performance, the value that I mentioned before, and by that I mean the operability. Which limitations are okay for you? All systems will have a limitation, and what meets with the requirements that you have for your fleet. And the other part of this value performance is the operational expenditure. And I think both of these two are the most difficult ones to find transparent information about. But it's also the ones that will affect you the most, because it potentially can limit where you can sail, and you can also potentially have higher expenditures operating the system than you expected. So I think this is very important, and the best way I think to address this lack of transparency to find information is to benchmark different systems to each other. In that way, to get a better picture of the difference of the system, and also look for third-party information. And one can be water temperatures, the salinity in the ports that you sail to. If you can find UVI values, UVT values, that's also very good. So I think that combination is very good to address this challenge with very important information. The second part is concerning ease of operation and training. We have had feedback from the market that some have installed systems that turn out to be very difficult to operate. And it's so difficult actually, so it's putting compliance to risk. So of course the system should be easy. It should be a push of a button to start the system, and then it starts running, and then a stop button. That should be that easy. Of course you need a training as well. There are other parts. So it's important that the maker can offer different kinds of training, either online, on the vessel, or in classroom-based, where you can have a system to test. That way you can ensure compliance also by the ease of use and understanding the system. Third point I think is to look for is the ramp up and size down. The ramp up is an immediate challenge, because when the maker go from supplying what they supply today to maybe double or triple that in the coming years, it puts stress on the full organization. And as an owner, I would expect to get the same service I get today tomorrow. So it's important to ask the maker, how do you make sure that you first of all can supply the system, but you're also able to commission the system, answer the phone when I have a question. So I think that's very important. And equally, a challenge can be when you need to size down. So after the retrofit period, you need to make sure that the owner has, that the maker has a business model that allow them to continue to give a good service, to support the installed base. And when you have a question, someone picks up the phone. So long-term commitment. Yes, I think for a very long time, US Coast Guard has been a key focus and a key concern, I would say, both for ship owners but also for the makers. And I understand it, because we had the situation where we had the legislation in place and no available systems, and then there's been some concerns about the performance in the US. But I think one question which is equally important, or maybe even more important, is the revised G8. So if you look from a perspective of container, the 50 biggest container ports, you find 4% in the US, while the other 96% you find outside of the US, which means IMO. So the revised G8 means that after October 2020, you're not allowed to install a system which does not have a revised G8 certificate. And we're 18 months away from October 2020. So the decisions you take today for your fleet will probably have consequences after October 2020. So it's very important to make sure to understand where is the maker in terms of type approval certificate for revised G8. And I think it's also important to maybe challenge the statements made, because sometimes you don't know what you don't know. So you think that it's an easy path, you say you will have it soon. We have done the testing, we know it's a challenge. Just because you have used Coast Guard type approval doesn't mean that you will have revised G8. And it takes time. So I think that's a key question to understand. Where is the maker today? Do they have revised G8? And if they doesn't, where are they in the process?